everyone. Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at.
This facility is not designed to help us. It is designed to warehouse us.
A WTTW News exclusive report: how some people charged with sex offenses are subject to indefinite detention. Hear from the Reverend Jesse Jackson's youngest son, Yusef, chosen to lead the Rainbow Push Coalition. Efforts to add affordable housing in Chicago that's also accessible.
By 1986, there were only about a dozen piping plover pairs left in the Great Lakes.
The first piping plovers of the season are spotted at Montrose Beach. We explain what their presence means for conservation efforts. First off tonight, the Chicago Police Department is now in full compliance with 25% of the federal consent decree, with independent monitors praising the department for significant progress. The most recent figure is up from 22% compliance last summer, and it comes 7 years after the court order requiring CPD to stop routinely violating the rights of Black and Latino Chicagoans. While full compliance has been slow, the monitor did find improvements in secondary compliance, meaning a majority of officers have been trained on new policies. That jumped from 40% during the first half of 2025 to 67% by the end of the year. You can read more at WTTW.com/news. Frequent flyers might not be surprised to hear that O'Hare has been getting busier. The airport reclaimed the crown as busiest in the world, the mayor and Chicago Department of Aviation announced today. With 8 runways and 1 takeoff or landing about every 37 seconds in 2025, O'Hare beat out second-place Atlanta by more than 50,000 takeoffs and landings. But there's a catch. If you count by the nearly 85 million passengers who move through O'Hare, the airport ranked 6th. Gardens, a makerspace for teens, and even dinosaurs could be coming to a vacant lot just steps away from the Garfield Green Line station. Washington Park community leaders joined a University of Chicago paleontologist today to announce plans for Cytopia Chicago. This Southside Science Center is set to provide hands-on learning opportunities to the public aimed especially at teens. According to the plans announced today, construction is set to begin within 2 years. Destructive hail and tornadoes are possible tonight, continuing a stretch of erratic spring weather. That's according to the National Weather Service, which says the greatest risk lies north and west of Chicago. A tornado watch is in effect through 10 p.m. for Lake, McHenry, and Kane counties. Up next, how 2 state laws are keeping some Illinois residents behind bars for an indefinite amount of time. Our Nick Blumberg takes the host seat right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
In Illinois, people charged with sex offenses can be held for an indefinite amount of time under 2 different state laws, known as civil commitment laws. Currently, more than 500 people are committed under those laws as they're considered a threat to public safety. Those individuals who've either been charged with or convicted of a sexual offense aren't technically serving time, but WTTW News spoke with several of them who say it feels like they are. Our reporters Blair Paddock, Jared Ritecki, and anchor Brandis Friedman spent more than a year talking to those affected by civil commitment laws. They also dug through state documents and data to offer a glimpse into the legal and treatment processes in Illinois that have largely avoided the public eye. Brandis and Blair join us now with more really great reporting here. The two of you focused on 2 different civil commitment laws in the state of Illinois. Brandis, tell us about the one you looked into.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So under this law, people who have been convicted of a sex offense and likely have served some time in prison, they're evaluated by psychologists before they're released to determine if they are likely to reoffend. And that is, of course, based on that previous sex offense as well as the existence of a mental health condition or mental illness. The Illinois Attorney General's office then petitions the court to have them committed. If and once the court grants that petition, the person is then sent to the treatment and detention facility in Rushville for mental health treatment. But unlike a prison sentence, which can be determinate folks who are held at the TDF until the court says, or they are held at the TDF until the court says that they are no longer a threat and that they can be released. Now, it's not prison, though you can tell from these pictures it looks a little bit like it. And many critics, including people who are being held there, claim that it functions much like a prison. It is operated by the Illinois Department of Human Services, who contracts with Liberty Healthcare to provide the mental health treatment there. Now, for the last year, I have been in communication with a man named Jason Allen. He has been at the TDF since it opened in 2006. Before that, he was held in various state facilities, at first for juveniles and then for adults, since he was 13 years old. Today, he is 48. Here's one of my phone interviews with him where he tells me that he rejected the mental health treatment that he was receiving there because he felt it wasn't useful.
I got out of this facility's treatment program in 2013 because they were just playing games. And I have no tolerance nor patience for wasting time. I've been institutionalized since 21 days after I turned 13. I've been in treatment facility programs that were actually designed to help their resident, patient, inmate, whichever term you choose to use. And this facility is not designed to help us. It is designed to warehouse us.
Now, Blair, tell us about the state law that you looked into. This one operates differently.
Yeah, I looked at the sexually dangerous person law. So compared to Brandis's law that she focused on, it's a pre-conviction law. So someone is charged with a crime, and the prosecutor on that case will petition the judge to evaluate that person as a sexually dangerous person. A psychiatrist will come in, do an evaluation, and if they're found to be an SDP, that person will be sent downstate to Big Muddy River Correctional Center, again, without a criminal trial even taking place. At that facility, they're supposed to receive treatment like group therapy is the main form offered. But I spoke to a man who about a decade ago filed a lawsuit alleging that there was not adequate treatment. He said that at the time he was only given about an hour of group therapy each week, and receiving treatment, getting through treatment is the main way to be released from the facility.
Yeah, so clearly some common threads, folks taking issue with this treatment. Brandis, what is the process for release from the treatment and detention facility?
So sort of similar to what you hear Blair reference, because it is complicated. And the story on our website, it shows the figures that our colleague Jared Rutecki analyzed, showing that 102 people have died in civil commitment since 2006. That is when the facility opened. Jason Allen, as well as another resident that I've been in communication with there, Samuel Rutherford, they tell me that they have tried to use the courts to secure their release, clearly with no success. The nonprofit advocates at Equip for Equality make the point that very few defense attorneys are willing to take on this kind of case. In a statement, the Illinois Department of Human Services, they explain that the TDF, this is a quote, the TDF does not determine the length of stay for residents who've been committed to the program, nor the term of their original incarceration. Length of stay is determined by the courts under the Illinois SVP Act and is based on ongoing assessments of risk, not a fixed sentence. The philosophy of the TDF program is that residents can be rehabilitated. Continued detention reflects a court determination regarding risk, not a conclusion that rehabilitation is impossible. So the residents there are up for review annually, and part of that review includes progress in or completion of that 5-step mental health program. That also includes a lot of group therapy. Typically, a discharge means that they are released on what's called conditional release, or a successful discharge. They would be released on conditional release. That's a very strict set of rules or conditions that have to be followed. Even minor violations could have the resident sent back to the TDF for more treatment.
And Blair, we're just about out of time, but you mentioned that lawsuit out of Rushville. What came of that?
Yeah, so just last week, actually, a federal judge ordered that 5 hours of treatment is required for those who are inside of the facility, those plaintiffs. And IDOC said in reaction to the therapy hours that we provided in our story that they already provide 5 hours of therapy, but that's not mandatory for folks to actually take up that 5 hours.
All right, great work. Brandis Friedman, Blair Paddock, thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
And you can read the full stories from Blair, Brandis, and Jared on our website. It's all at WTTW.com/news.
A new chapter begins for the Rainbow Push Coalition following the death of civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. The organization Jackson made into a national force for economic and racial justice now has new leadership. The Reverend's youngest son, Yusef, who was unanimously chosen by the Rainbow Push Board. He's inheriting an organization with decades of history and is charged with taking it into the future. Joining us now is Yusef Jackson, the newly appointed president and CEO of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Welcome to Chicago tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's an honor to be here.
What does it mean to you to be stepping into your father's shoes in this way?
You know, first let me say I want to thank Chicago. I want to thank the United States, and I want to thank the world. There were so many outpourings of celebration, of commemoration, of Instagram videos and memes and funny things and beautiful stories for my father, and we just want to thank the whole world for what they offered to us. It was so positive. They kept us strong during a really, really hard time. So I want to thank the listeners and your viewers for that. It means a whole lot. I'm honored that the board of directors had faith in me. I thank my mother. I thank my father, Reverend Yusef Jackson Sr., for the faith he had to entrust me with this legacy of service and to take it into the future.
Your father also, he chose you too, right? The board made it official, of course, but he also said that he wanted you to take on this role.
We had been working on it for a year. We never found the right moment to do it until just recently, actually. It was really important to me. My father's always said he never wanted to retire. He's not the retiring kind of guy. He doesn't retire in the kind of work that he does. It was in his spirit. The spirit of service was in his body. And so he wanted to die with his shoes on, and that's how he did it. Well-worn shoes. He had holes, and he had a dirty uniform on, and that's how he would have it. So it was important for me that he passed with the titles that he earned.
Yes, in covering his legacy, we also spoke to Reverend Jeanette Wilson. We heard about the struggle clothes for the days when we were getting out to walk and to march.
You know what he would say was that he'd say that if your clothes are too neat to reach down and grab somebody from the mud and pick them up, you're in the wrong profession. That was really, really important to him. So he was always dressed for the occasion and never too high to reach over to people or reach down for people to help them up and give them hope. You know, if I can offer this, my father, the mission of the Rainbow Push Coalition is to gain, protect, and defend civil rights by leveling the economic playing field and making a better world for everybody. My father saw it differently. And why did he see it differently? More expansively, probably, than we see that mission. Although that's a very important mission, it remains our mission to gain, protect, and defend civil rights. But he was coming out of Jim Crow. He was coming out of separate but equal. And so he saw the law change with the '64 Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Public Accommodations Bill, but he knew the cultures had to change. So he went and touched almost every part of American culture he could. Public accommodations, the libraries, the water fountains, the staffing. He had to convince African Americans that they are somebody, that they had dignity, to believe in yourself, and that you deserve these new rights. You have to remember, there was a time when they questioned the size of our brains. Can an African American person, does he have the capacity to play quarterback? Do you have the capacity to manage a game pitching from the mound? Do you have the capacity to coach a football team? And so he had to change from music to automobile industries to manufacturing, all the industries he went to touch.
And to that point, you know, how do you feel the role of the organization is different today than when he founded it, as you said, at a time when he was coming out of Jim Crow?
Yes, so we have to be different. First, we've got to continue to think about it because reaching younger people is different than it used to be. But I do know this. He had a tremendous voice. His voice commanded media attention. He had a face more popular than the Pope's. So we don't have that. He earned that right over 60 years of work and for the work that he did. What we've got to do is we've got to teach civics on a block by block, person by person, group by group level, state by state, and city by city. What does that mean? There are civil rights advocates, 64 and 65. A lot of them are passing on, as my father has. But the beneficiaries of civil rights is 80% of the country. Every woman in sports, every woman in jobs who have a chance to get dollar for dollar compared to a male, every African American, every non-Western European immigrant since 1965, every immigrant since 1965, you are a beneficiary of the civil rights advocacy groups. You wouldn't be here and have the opportunities you have but for civil rights. And so it's up to you, advocates and beneficiaries who've taken the gains that we've offered you from advocacy and to teach other generations. Without Civil Rights Act, without 1964, 1965, this would not be the America that we see today.
And how do you make that legacy resonate with younger generations? Because all of that work that has already been done, all of the rights that people already have now, how do you convince them that the work still remains, not, you know, it's done,
no, we're trying to figure that out now, aren't we? So I'll tell you two things. One, everyone born after 1965 in the United States of America was born on second base, but they woke up and thought they hit a double. because they didn't have to struggle. What my parents knew, what our parents knew, was that to get these rights, someone had to die. We gave up a lot of blood. There was a lot of marching, a lot of protesting, a lot of coalition building. But post-1965, we don't really understand that. So we've had 61 years of progress without really understanding the nature of the struggle. We have got to teach people that. We've got to teach them one by one. Every female athlete, every NBA player, all of us must together teach civil rights. The other thing is we went to Minneapolis, and we brought together groups of African Americans and Haitian Somalis and Jewish groups and peace groups and learned firsthand what ICE was doing. It occurred to us that the fight in Minneapolis was about citizenship and the right to vote. The former Attorney General said, if you give us your voter registration list, we'll send ICE home. Citizenship and the right to vote. It's the same fight John Lewis, Jesse Jackson, Andy Young, Dr. King were having in March 1965 at Selma. Citizenship and the right to vote. And so the bridge between Minneapolis and Selma is one of continuous legacy. But the folks in Minneapolis didn't really see the relationship to Selma, citizenship and the right to vote. So we took 5 busloads of people from Minneapolis to Selma and from Washington, D.C. and Chicago to march across the bridge to baptize themselves. Selma, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, is our Jordan River. And so I think that everyone who's at Cook County today looking to register to vote, a non-felonious inmate, everyone who is trying to push legislation to have an 18-year-old have a voter registration card in one hand and a high school diploma in the other hand, you're all voting rights advocates, and you all are in the lineage of the struggle for voting rights advocacy. So you're doing more civil rights work than you think you are.
So voter registration, voting rights have always been a central push for Rainbow Push. What are the other pillars that you're focusing on?
Oh, we have a big trade deficit with the country. Black and brown people, if we close those gaps with the Civil Rights Act alone, the Voting Rights Act alone, the Public Accommodations Bill, education, housing, life expectancy, affordable health care, then black and brown people would represent over the next 5 years, $5 trillion of additional GDP. $5 trillion. It's worth investing in African American and brown people in the country right now because it's a safe bet. We're right here, right next to you. And over the last 20 years, we've lost $30 billion based on the disinvestment in African American and brown communities.
Okay, a couple seconds left. Lastly, how's your family been?
Thank you for asking. It's been, every day we have 4 seasons in our lives. It's hard to talk about still. I want to give you a good answer for that, but I'm not sure I can answer it appropriately on television because it's still very painful for us.
All right, I understand, and I won't hold you to it. Again, our condolences. Yusef Jackson, brand new president and CEO of Rainbow Push. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Of course. And we're back right after this.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities, this story is part of Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
The lack of affordable housing in Chicago affects thousands of residents across the city. But for those living with physical disabilities who need living spaces that are accessible, the problem has different challenges. In partnership with Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism, we explore how one organization is helping solve a decades-long issue.
Mike Williams is living proof that life can change at any moment.
5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. We wouldn't be standing here talking right now, right?
After a shooting incident nearly 20 years ago, the former NBA player was left paralyzed from the waist down, needing a wheelchair to get around. In search for a new place to call home, he was told about Over the Rainbow Association, or OTR.
Can you be there tomorrow? I said, well, can I be there yesterday? So I was like, ooh, let's go.
OTR says its goal is simple: to build accessible and independent housing for people with disabilities. They have 14 buildings all over northern Illinois, including a brand new building in Lakeview that just opened in October. Eric Huffman is the president of OTR. Even as they cross the finish line with their Lakeview project, Huffman is looking towards the future.
You're already thinking about what's the next project, what's in the pipeline. So, while we were doing the Lakeview Landing, we also have 2 other projects in the pipeline right now that we're thinking about doing.
Huffman says affordability is a key part of OTR's mission. In other kinds of accessible housing, some tenants pay up to 90% of their income for rent. OTR residents pay no more than 30%, according to Huffman.
For folks in a wheelchair, for instance, things need to be low.
OTR's features are designed specifically for wheelchair users.
Switches are easily accessible here. We build, apartments that are barrier-free and really have the mobility impaired folks in mind. The showers, the kitchens, the way all that's designed.
Waitlists for accessible housing are a huge problem in the city. For OTR's Lincoln Park building, waitlist numbers are through the roof.
There's 60 people in that waiting list for 8 apartments. I mean, that's not a 10-year waiting list, that's a 50-year waiting list.
Waitlist times can vary depending on building size and location. Kate Polk is a staff attorney at Access Living, a Chicago-based nonprofit. They say their mission is to help people with all types of disabilities live independently. She says there is more the city can do to provide accessible housing.
Chicago has been asleep at the wheel when it comes to ensuring that the affordable housing that it builds is accessible.
In 2018, Access Living filed a lawsuit against the city of Chicago, alleging that the city was not complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1991.
Chicago was just handing out money to developers to build affordable housing and not ensuring that it was accessible, though it is required to be.
After 7 years, the lawsuit is yet to be resolved, and the need for accessible housing continues in Chicago. In a statement from Chicago's Department of Housing, the city says it is not able to comment on the pending lawsuit at this time, but it remains firmly committed to ensuring accessibility in all housing programs. In the meantime, OTR is working to increase accessible housing one building at a time.
And to be able to have options that can help you continue on gives you hope.
Reporting for WTTW News and Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism, I'm Saifuddin Lahmar.
And we've got much more about this story on our website. Back with more right after this. Every summer for the past 7 years, Chicagoans have gone plover crazy. I'm talking about piping plovers, the endangered birds that have decided to make a summer home on the lakefront. The group Chicago Piping Plovers reported yesterday that 2 plovers known as Pippin and Imani have landed back at Montrose Beach. So what is all the fuss about? We thought it was about time to explain. Here's Patty Wetley.
Chicago's lakefront is famously open and free. So why is a prime section of Montrose Beach roped off every summer? Because it's for the birds, literally, the piping plovers. Piping plovers are tiny shorebirds about the size of a smartphone, but a fraction of the weight. There used to be a few thousand of them spread across the entire Great Lakes, but then people took away a lot of the beaches where they lived, building houses, hotels, marinas, and resorts. By 1986, there were only about a dozen piping plover pairs left in the Great Lakes, all of them nesting in Michigan. The future looked so bleak for our feathered friends, they were officially added to the endangered species list. Fast forward to 2019. 2 of these rare creatures, a male and a female, turned up on Montrose Beach. Chicago's birders rejoiced. Huzzah! There hadn't been a nesting pair in Cook County since Harry Truman was president. But against all odds and logic, a pair of plovers had landed on one of the most crowded beaches in Chicago and decided to start a family. Amazing! Maybe a slightly unwise choice on the plovers' part, but amazing. An army of volunteers quickly formed to protect the plovers, who they named Monty and Rose, from beachgoers and other threats. Long story short, the couple, and eventually their chicks, spent the summer charming the pants off Chicagoans before flying south for the winter. And what do you know, like all summer blockbusters, this tale has a sequel. Monty and Rose returned to Montrose to nest again in 2020. Incredibly, they landed in Chicago within hours of each other, despite spending the winter on opposite sides of the Gulf of whatever. The dynamic duo completed the trilogy in 2021, raising a 3rd group of chicks at Montrose. Alas, in 2022, the saga took a tragic turn. Rose never made it back to Chicago, and Monty died of an infection. though some would say it was really of a broken heart. Still, the legacy of these lovebirds lives on, not just in their son Amani, who's also found a mate at Montrose, but in the goodwill these two crazy kids created for their species. Monty and Rose, putting the love in plover.
And if you want to see more from this Emmy award-winning series, visit WTTW.com/explains. And that is our show for this Tuesday night. Be sure to sign up for our free email newsletters, The Daily Chicagoan and Urban Nature, at WTTW.com/newsletter. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. City Council is set to vote on a measure that would ban Chicago cops from participating in hate groups or far-right extremist groups. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that is a multilingual law firm providing translators for a variety of languages.